Alright, I came from my car actually, so I didn't bother running upstairs. I'll just try standing today rather than getting my extendy cord. So, today is your day. Have you tried plugging away at this? Has it generated any questions? So far, right down to the point where you start writing code. That's how it usually works. Say that again? Yeah, you can find the header file if you actually look for StreamBuff in the... Did it show?
Yeah, but for some reason it was just SQL every time I tried it.
Well, what is it you're trying to do?
I was trying to include it.
You're getting a seg fault for trying to include StreamBuff?
Well, no, the thing is, I tried to include it, and then basically I got something where it was saying it wasn't valid for stuff.
Well, we can... No, let's experiment with a little bit of shellcode here. StampBuff. Let me see. I'll just call this buff stuff. Alright, so I can pound include StreamBuff. Pound include... I think we need to include... I'm sure that IOStream includes StreamBuff. We'll put one of them in. So we say class stamp buff colon public StreamBuff. No, that's not. Yeah, that's right. Isn't that right? Okay. So I'm not going to implement this thing wholesale, but I think it's safe to assume there's going to be a number of rows and columns. So why am I not getting indentation the way I want? I'm not sure. I guess we need both. Stamp buff, SB. Buff stuff. Body schmoddy. Alright. Try that then. Let's try that again. Unknown class name StreamBuff. Did I mean? Oh, standard StreamBuff. Alright. This is why you only write a few lines at a time before compiling. I did the same thing in both places. Private constructor, public. Alright, victory's ours. So now we need to create a class StampStream. And this will have a public and a private. stamp stream constructor. I'm just going to borrow this stuff. And I don't know about private yet. Let's see here. That constructor is going to the initialization list needs to initialize the base class. So actually, let's look at StampBuff first, because I never did that with StampBuff. What do these constructors look like? Or, excuse me, for StreamBuff. Constructors. It's a default and a copy. Alright. That's fine. We're going to let the default be called here. There's nothing for me initialized for the parent there. However, OStream, I am going to want to initialize that parent. So if I look, it's not there. Constructor. And we actually pass it a pointer to the buffer. So we can go new StampBuff, do that. Let's try compiling that. There we go. We can, let's throw in silly funk. Now in our main, we'll create it, and then we'll say that StampBuff pointer SBP. Oh, actually, I need, before I do that, I need to go, let me comment that out. StampStream. That's what I wanted to validate works. So I'll call that SS. Oh, and I'm in the middle of my silly funk stuff, so okay, cout, std. Alright, so that works. I can create a stream, StampStream. When I create a StampStream, it's dynamically going to allocate a StampBuff. That address is going to go into OStream, and OStream's constructor is assigns the value to the components. Well, in a fancy way, it's just saying that the StreamBuff pointer gets initialized. I wanted to confirm that here. That's why I created the silly funk. I create a StampBuff pointer equals ss dot, this was readBuff, wasn't it? It was a public function. That isn't going to work because this is returning a StreamBuff, and we need the derived type of StampBuff for my fancy code here. So I will say dynamic cast, and I want to cast it to be a StampBuff pointer. Let me zoom in on this. And that's what I will cast. I'll cast the stream buffer to be a stamp buffer, and then I will call SBP silly funk to confirm that it gives us the 3 and the 4 back that we propagated through this thing. compile, run, and there we go. So that's kind of the framework for creating those classes. Somewhere along here, probably in StampStream's constructor, insert plate, probably in StampStream's Destructor, eject plate. Any other questions?
The other thing in the Destructor, don't we need to free the Stampa pointer, or does that?
Yeah, you probably should. What I would do is in the Destructor.
That OStream's responsibility.
No, OStream isn't. OStream doesn't know that that's dynamically allocated, because you could easily do something like you could create as a private member. You could create a stamp buff object, and then you provide the address to it to the OStream. So there's no guarantee it's dynamically allocated. So yeah, it'd probably be good to do something like that.
Where are you setting the set P for the stamp buff? Or do you need?
I'd probably do it. So this. So there's probably more data here, right?
Yeah. Okay, and so when you give it the charge star, you're just simply going to create a C-style string and then pass a pointer to that string. I guess that was a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it a C-style string. I just call it a character array. You're going to create a character array. Use new char. All right.
And then the size of that character array is what you were talking about.
That yeah, I would take the number of columns passed in, divide it by 2, and then once it's all working, change it to divided by 3 and confirm it all still works. Try making it larger, maybe num rows times 2. Try it that way. Try making it exactly num rows, right? Try all those variations, and if once it's working for all those, then you're good to go. And typically what will happen is you make one change, which breaks something, you fix that, and that ends up fixing all cases. Any other questions?
Do we need to create another H and CPP file for the row class and buff class?
Yeah, that's a good question. The manipulators, row and end row, that's what you're talking about. I would simply use StampStream, that header and source file. So right, the header file that contains this, I'd go ahead and add your declaration for your row class and for end row.
You have the stamp.h and stamp.cpp, right?
Those of course are read only, and you would pound include probably in the source to stamp buff. You'd pound include stamp wherever you need it. It looks like it's probably in both of them, since you're going to need it for stream buff because of that call to insert plate and eject plate. So that would require StampStream to have it included, and then stamp buff would be using set die and stamp. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in our sync function, which will be a part of the stamp buff class, we need to have set die and stamp. Well, when we sync, we loop over all the array and call set die and stamp every single one.
That's right.
So those two functions should be members of the stamp buff class.
No, they should not be members of the stamp buff class any more than rand or srand should be members of a class. They're just functions you call.
Oh, so those functions should be like global functions, set die and stamp.
Well, they're in a namespace, but they're C-style functions, right? So I think rand and srand are probably the best examples of functions that you all use all the time, or have in other classes anyway, to generate random numbers, and you just call the functions wherever you need to call them. Same thing here with the stamp functions. You just call those functions wherever you need to call them. Yeah.
Is it like srand is like set die, sets the initial condition, and then rand and stamp use that initial condition?
Yeah, sure. srand is setting a pointer into a list, and then rand is retrieving and incrementing that pointer. Anything else?
Not yet.
I'm saying a stamp stream, where we're supposed to create that.
I created one on line 45, and that's essentially the same thing that was done in the PDF in that example usage of it.
Oh, okay.
Set 3 and 4, not very realistic.
So this is basically this in this example. This highlights the functions we need to create.
What I've done highlights the structure of the classes you have to create on top, but that inherit from OStream and inherit from StreamBuff. And of course, this will be posted with the notes if you wanted to borrow from it.
Should our program handle the outline? When
No, no, no. When you do eject plate, all that's generated for you automatically. All you got to do is flush that buffer out using set die and stamp, and all the magic will happen for you. question was about the visual look of the plate, and I was just saying all that code's provided. You don't have to do anything but call those functions, and the plate gets generated automatically when you call eject plate. Yeah.
So yeah. So the stamping press class, how should we make it a member of the internal class to the StampStream? Like an object inside the StampStream.
Well, you can implement it how you want. I just do it the way I showed it here, so I just create it as a separate class. But if you want to get fancy and embed one class in another, I'll let you go for that. As with all these things, when you want to look at the grading rubric before your final submission, make sure that you've got everything covered there. Anything else?
I think after we all bang our heads against the wall.
Let's do Tuesday, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's of paramount importance that you bang your head over the weekend so that Monday's productive. Monday's, from my perspective, Monday is like today where I am at your service. All right, I'll end the recording and we'll call it a day until this time on Monday.